Folks, this is just a sign that the cabal, the coup attempters, the deep state, the entrenched government establishment machine, whether Republican or Democrat, is absolutely scared. We've got new news here in opposition to AG Bill Barr because they know that house cleaning is coming.
In general, the president is very happy with the way William Barr has performed as his attorney general, looking out for his interests on everything from the Russia probe to now apparently Roger Stone. So it's it's something that these people signed, and it's gotten some attention. There's no question about that. But I don't think it's having a particularly big impact here.
Right. Well, Siobhan, as I mentioned,
we've got this news here that there is a group of federal judges from the Federal Judges Association. They're calling for an emergency meeting after the DOJ intervenes in case of Trump ally Roger here. Now, what's interesting to me is that this is a National Association of Federal Judges, and they've called an emergency meeting on Tuesday to address Bill Barr because they can't wait until their usual meeting schedule. Now, I think part of this is not just about Bill Barr and President Trump and the Stone case and all of that, but also because President Trump has now installed and has had confirmed by the Senate. I know it's over 180 last count, but I think we're close to 190 judges, including Justices Kavanaugh and Gorsuch. President Trump is leaving a legacy of constitutional judges on the bench. And I wouldn't be surprised if not only are they worried about Bill Barr and the investigation, that perhaps some of them have been crony hacktivist judges and are going to get caught, but also they are threatened by the future federal judges under President Trump who are actually going to expose how biased and how wrong these current judges are when they start actually upholding the Constitution and the rule of law.
President Trump's Federal Reserve picked Judy Shelton's nomination. It appears to be in trouble. 3 key GOP senators are expressing concerns about her, quote, outlier as an outlier. Does it really mean that the Fed won't ever get the accountability that many believe it should have? Here to weigh in, Texas Congressman Chip Roy.
Now let's take a pause here from the Bill Barr news and let's turn to something very, very important. President Trump's biggest win is going to come during his second term as president. And that is going to be when he takes on the Fed and puts us back to a gold standard. This is going to be huge. And let me explain the latest power play to make this happen. And this has to do with Dr. Shelton.
Of course, Judy Shelton, she's had some ideas in the past, including the gold standard.
I think this is a classic example of the swamp being the swamp, right? You've got a president who's within his rights to nominate somebody who's obviously got a great deal of experience and who's built a career on questioning the Fed, I think appropriately. I think we need accountability at the Fed. I obviously support legislation that would have an audit of the Federal Reserve. I think that's necessary and needed. But here's what's really important. We don't need a Federal Reserve that's more interested in creating policies that enriches the financial sector instead of creating an overall stable policy so that we can have strong economic growth and have sound money.
Last year, around the 4th of July weekend, President Trump had nominated for one of the 7 governors of the board of the Federal Reserve, Dr. Judy Shelton. And I was excited about her back then. And I wanted to cover this over the weekend. I didn't get to it. But late last week, they actually started the hearings, the Senate hearings, for her confirmation. She's one of 2 that President Trump has put forward to fill in these vacancies. Now, I like Dr. Shelton for this simple fact. I'm going to simplify this for you. If you're new here, I have a degree in economics and I've worked in banking and investment banking and finance most of my adult life. And I really like Dr. Shelton because she has been very, very vocal on one very important thing. Actually, 2 very important things. One, getting rid of the Fed, which I think is a great idea. If you're not familiar with how powerful this is, watch other YouTube videos about what a fraud and scam the Federal Reserve System is. It's not federal, and they don't even follow their own reserve rules. And the other thing she talks about, and is a very big proponent is the gold standard, putting us back on the gold standard so that our dollar isn't what's called a fiat currency, a fake currency just based on people's faith in it, but it's actually backed by a value. Imagine that. I've been saying on this channel for well over 2 years, go do a search of my videos, that President Trump is going to take on and end the Fed and put us back on a gold standard. Now, what makes this more exciting is that right now, because of the confirmation hearing, she is being considered and she may actually be in there. A person in the Federal Reserve System that believes that it should be audited, it should be scrubbed, and we should go back to a gold standard. This, my friends, is huge. And you know that the global elites, the banking elites, are nervous about it, because even you look at these articles like Washington Post, they've got to point out that she is controversial, that she is a Trump person. They make it political, even though it should be apolitical. Everyone on both sides, left and right, should agree in the fact that we should have a currency that is worth something. Let me play you a few clips from Dr. Shelton so you can see how awesome of a pick she is that President Trump has given us.
Let me ask about the elephant in the room, and we'll get that out of the way. Your name has come up in conversation, at least, about the possibility that you might take one of the seats that's open on the Federal Reserve Board. You're a well-known economic analyst and expert.
For me, the currency manipulation issue has been a strong point. I think it puts us on the moral high road in saying we believe in free trade, but that means a level monetary playing field. China's able, with its state-controlled apparatus, to bring everything to bear. They can intervene in the currency markets daily. They do so as a matter of policy. It's a different mindset when you talk about sound money. You're now looking at money as a moral contract of sorts between the government and its citizens. Money is meant to be a reliable, meaningful unit of account. It's supposed to be a dependable store of value. It's supposed to work for everyone in the same way. There should be no monetary favoritism that helps wealthy investors or big corporations who want to do buybacks. Money should work for everyone, and it should not be causing further wealth inequality. And so that's where I would start. I do think that there is virtue in having some kind of some monetary integrity that's not just dependent on a dozen people meeting 8 times a year to decide what should be the price of capital.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Dr. Judy Shelton. Dr. Judy and I have spoken many times, but this is the first time I'm speaking with her in the capacity of the president nominated her to be a potential Fed governor. Dr. Judy, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Over the next couple of weeks, my guess is you're going to get hit hardest with respect to conversations regarding whether you're the right nominee or not, because you've advocated in the past strong money, which advocated maybe more of the gold standard. Now, that ended in '71, but maybe you can explain to the audience, you know, as I see Bitcoin since April over triple its price, as I see gold going up and down, it's pretty plain to see that the world is desperate for something that is a better storage of money than copy machines that have pictures of presidents or nice colors on them, and they're called money. I think that when I hear snickers, when we talk about convertible bonds into gold for various countries, the fact that there's snickers at all really depresses me. Nobody seems open-minded to protect what's in our wallets. Can you finish out telling me why that potential should be considered?
This is what I mean by President Trump wants to end the Fed power and put us back on a gold standard. This is demonstrated by the simple fact that Dr. Judy Shelton, a big proponent of the gold standard, has been nominated by President Trump as one of the 2 governors to fill in those Federal Reserve Board vacancies. Now, she's being opposed, of course, because, as you heard before, the swamp is a swamp. They, the central bankers and the moneyed families of old, want to be able to manipulate and control us through our currency, our little pieces of paper with nice colors and people's faces on them that are not really a store of value. So this is going to be playing out over the next several weeks. I will keep you updated as it comes about. But I just want you to be aware that President Trump is on our side, even when it comes down to something as important and basic, but not talked about by any other president as of late, our own currency. and how it must be backed by something. And for those that are not aware, the reason why it needs to be backed by gold is so that it has a constant value. If you look at how much money or how much things you could buy with gold 100 years ago and compare it to today, it's more stable than our dollar that inflates and deflates, and the value is different from 10 years from now. You have $100 back in 1980 buys you a lot more than $100 does today. And that's the idea, that if we have a dollar backed by gold, that our wealth will be more secure. President Trump is on our side, and I'm telling you, in his second term, I don't think it's been the very beginning of his second term, but sometime during the middle to the last half of his second term, we will have a completely different Federal Reserve System than what we have now, possibly the end of the Federal Reserve System, and we'll be back on a gold or silver standard where our dollar is backed by some sort of actual valued commodity like gold or silver. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be an exciting time.
And look, Ms. Shelton has talked about sound money her entire career. They try to pigeonhole her as some sort of kook attached to the gold standard. First of all, the gold standard is a reasonable thing for us to debate and consider. But putting that aside, shouldn't we all be desiring sound money and stability rather than just waiting with bated breath as to what the Federal Reserve Chairman and the Federal Reserve Committee is going to decide, that what interest rates are going to be, and go through the yo-yo of our economic conditions? I think it'd be wise for us to have somebody like Ms. Shelton at the Federal Reserve who's questioning the orthodoxy there, especially when we see what we're dealing now with $23.2 trillion of debt.
All right, let's get back to the Bill Barr and President Trump drama, if you will. What's incredible to me is we're now up to over 2,000 ex-DOJ folks that have come on record or signed their name or added their voice of dissent of AG Bill Barr. By the way, this is a minuscule amount. I mean, it's still a huge number if you think about it, of deep state people willing to expose themselves. But I guess there's like tens of thousands, 100,000 people that work at the Department of Justice throughout all, Washington and different U.S. attorney sites. So who knows really how big of a percentage of it is. Seems like a small percentage overall, but it's still a big number. It's impressive that over 2,000 people are willing to put their name and reputation on the line and expose themselves for being deep state Muppets. But here's what's really crazy is that Bill Barr is going to testify next month on March 31st. If this were any other Democrat or leftist, we'd be told, hey, hold on your horses. Let's see what they have to say.